Hi friends. Okay, we have been talking in science about plants and animals and the things that they need in order to survive, along with humans too. We know that all living things need four things to survive: air, water, food, and shelter. Okay, we need those four things in order to survive. Where do we get those things? Do we go to the food store and pick up? Now we can pick up food, but do we pick up air there? No. We can't go and get those things. What we need is we need a system that has all of those things in it that we need, whether we're a plant, whether we're an animal, or whether we're a human. We need a system in order for us to get all of the things that we need. You just watched a quick video on what those systems are called. They are called habitats, where an plant, animal, or human gets everything that they need to survive: air, food, water, and shelter. They get in those systems called habitats. There are many different kinds of habitats throughout the world, and there are certain animals and plants that can live in those habitats. So those habitats are called a system. It means that the plants and animals are a part of that system, and everything they need in order to survive is in that system. So that means if you try to take a plant or an animal from one system or habitat and move it to another, it might not do as well there because you don't know if it's going to have everything it needs in order to survive. So in the video you just watched, we talked about a couple different systems or habitats. I have them right here, and what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at them together, okay? So the first habitat that I have, or system, because remember, we use the word system so that we understand it has all the parts that it needs in order for a plant or animal to survive there. The first system we're going to talk about habitat is the desert, right? It's a dry place. Each desert is a system. The plants and animals are part of the system there, and everything they need, they get from there. Some examples of animals that might live in the desert would be a lizard, the desert hare, they're little rabbits, maybe a wolf, maybe a coyote. There's also certain plants that are there. The cactus, right? They call them cacti for more than one, okay? So that's a desert system, okay? It's hot and dry. All the plants and animals that are there get everything they need from it. The next one we're going to talk about is the forest, okay? That's also a system. That's a habitat, okay? And in the forest, lots and lots of trees grow. So that means a lot of plants and animals that live there, well, not so much the plants, but the animals that live there need all those trees, okay? So again, the plants and animals that live in that forest habitat are all part of a system. That means within that system, they get everything they need there, okay? The forest has everything that they might need there. All right? If I look down at this next system, and I'll turn it this way a little bit. Sorry, remember I have to go opposite. Okay, we have the ocean. Okay, that's another system. And in an ocean, it's a big body of salt water. When you've been at the shore before and you get knocked over and you get a mouthful of water, right? It's like, because it's all full of salt, right? Okay, so the plants and animals that live there have to have that salt water. So that big body of water there is very important to them. If you took them and put them in just a regular pond, they wouldn't survive. They need to have that salt water. So it's very important that they live in their ocean habitat. That system has all of the things that those plants and animals need, including that salty water. The same would probably be true if you took an animal from the ocean and put it in fresh water, like a pond or a creek that doesn't have that salt in it, because they are used to living in the ocean with that salty water, okay? And that salty water is part of one of the things that they need in order to survive, okay? So we have the ocean. The last one that we have that we can talk about that system is that polar, right? We talked about that this year when we did our polar bears at school. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute too, okay? So these are 4 different systems or habitats that plants and animals live in. And that means that everything they could possibly need to survive is found in those systems. The food that they need, the water that they need, the air that they need, and the shelter that they need are all within, okay? And it's hard for a plant or animal to move from one habitat to another. And we're going to talk about that in just a second, okay? All right, so you're going to help me. We're going to play a little matching game. I'm going to hold up some animals, and let's figure out which system or habitat we need them or they need in order to survive, okay? So let's take a look at our whale, okay? Let's take a look at our whale, all right? Where do you think the whale, not a seal, okay? This is a whale. Where do you think, if you've been at the shore during the summer, and you might see this, I saw it one time leaping up out of the water and it was amazing. Where do the whales usually live? Do they live in a desert? No. Forest? No. How about in the ocean? Do you think they need that salty water and in the ocean? I do. So we're going to put the whale right there, okay? All right. Ooh, how about this guy? How about an eagle? I'm going to show you him in just a second. Where do you think an eagle is going to get his nest and all the food that it might need? Where do you think an eagle might? Look at the picture closely. He's up on a tree branch. Which habitat had all of those trees in it, which is probably where an eagle would want to make a nest? I would agree. I would say the forest would be a good habitat for that eagle, okay? How about this guy? We talked about him this year. Our friend, the polar bear. Where would our polar bear belong? Right, in the polar habitat, right? Okay. How about a coyote? Where do you think a coyote would live? I'm going to tell you, in the desert. When I read stories, usually those coyotes, they howl at the moon, right? So we see the moon up there. A coyote would live in the desert, and a desert would give it all, it would be the system that it would need to give it all of the air, food, water, and shelter that it would need, okay? How about a seahorse? Where would a seahorse? Yep, in the ocean. In the ocean, okay? How about a turtle? Not a sea turtle, just a regular turtle. Where do you think you might find a turtle? The Arctic? I don't think it would survive there. Ocean? No, because I didn't say a sea turtle, right? Desert? Where do you usually, if you're like near a creek or a little stream or something? In the forest. Yep, I agree. The turtle. Very good. Okay. And how about this little desert fox? Actually, it is called a desert fox. So where would he belong? Yep, in the desert. Very good. And last but not least, how about our penguin? Where would our penguin belong? Yep, in the polar. Now, take a look at the 2 animals we added into the forest. See them up there? The eagle and the turtle? They kind of blend in with their picture, with their habitat. That's called camouflage. Remember we talked about the polar bear? He's white because he blends in with everything. This protects them from getting eaten in their habitat. So it gives them the protection. So you can even see where just by their coloring, their habitat is the right place for them. The eagle's able to get to the top of those trees and build the nest that it needs. And a turtle is able to go along and maybe find a little pond or something like that within the forest because they kind of like that wet too, right? How about over here in the desert? Okay. If you look, these guys, these desert foxes, the way they live in the desert is usually they're nocturnal. That means that they sleep during the day, so when it's the hottest, and then they come out at night. So when you hear about the coyotes howling at the moon, the coyotes come out at night because a lot of times, because it's so hot in the desert, they sleep during the day. So they've adapted to being in that kind of temperature. They figured out it's cooler at night, so they come out at night. So that's an adaptation. That means how they work within and get what they need out of that system, okay? And we have the ocean down here. We have the whale and we have the seahorse. And again, the seahorse kind of blends in. They also, because they're able to breathe and they have those gills so that they're able to bring that water in. Remember we talked about how you breathe either through your lungs or through gills. Okay, so they adapt and they make sure that they're able to get the oxygen out of the water that they need. If we look at our polar bear and our penguin, we talked about something that the polar bears have. Remember we did it with the Crisco? We made the, what am I thinking? Blubber mitten. Remember the blubber mitten where we put our hand in that really cold water this winter and our hand was protected, right? Well, the polar bear, that's something that it has to protect it in the cold polar habitat. It keeps it warm. What would happen if I took the polar bear and put it in, I lost my tape here. If I took the polar bear and put him in the desert, would that work for the polar bear? All of a sudden, that blubber would make him very hot. But if you look also, does he kind of stick out in that region? He does. He doesn't blend in at all. Could that make him easy to catch? Yes, it would. Okay, so the polar bear would not do well in that region, right? And we definitely know if we tried to move a dolphin or a whale to the desert region or the desert system or desert habitat, what would happen? Why isn't it going to get what it needs there? Because the whale needs water. A lot of water in the desert? Nope. So all of these animals, it's very important that they stay in their system or their habitat because it's where they're able to get everything it needs in order to survive. Okay? All right, my friends, great job on habitats. Thank you for working with me. I have a treat for you. I have a really cute story that I want you to listen to. It's called No Place Like Home. It's about a very grumpy polar bear who just wants to find his way home. Okay? Enjoy that story and great job on habitats.